Have you ever had that feeling where a hobby you used to love starts to feel, well, a little bit like a second job? That pressure to hit a new record, to keep a streak alive? Today we're going to get into exactly why that happens and, more importantly, what you can do about it. So let's just start with a really direct question. When you're doing the things you're passionate about, are you chasing points or are you chasing joy? It sounds simple, but the answer can tell you a whole lot about your relationship with the things you say you love. And the reason that question can hit so hard is that most of us are walking around with this scoreboard in our heads. It's always on, it's always tracking our performance, tallying up streaks, scores, likes, you name it. And yeah, that can be motivating for a while, but it can also create this constant, unspoken pressure. So let's talk about what happens when the points become the point. This isn't just a feeling, by the way. It actually has a name. Some researchers call it gamification pathology. And it's really just a fancy way of saying it's the moment the game just isn't fun anymore. See, at its core, gamification works by sticking these external numbers, likes, streaks, scores, onto things that never had them in the first place. Think about just going for a walk. It used to be, well, just a walk. Now, it's a step count, a calorie burn, a new record for your neighborhood loop. And this can lead to this really tricky psychological trap called metric dependency. This is that feeling where an experience almost doesn't feel real or valuable unless there's a number attached to it to prove it happened and to prove it was good enough. And that's the real conflict, isn't it? On one side, you've got the intrinsic value, the pure feeling of just doing the thing. The cool air on your face during a run, or that quiet pride when you finish a tough project. And on the other side, you've got the external metric that tries to bottle that feeling up. The big danger is that, slowly, the number starts to feel more important than the feeling itself. And the really serious consequence here is something we can call scoreboard self-worth. This is where our actual self-esteem gets tangled up with these, let's be honest, totally arbitrary scores. A bad runtime suddenly means you're having a bad day. Low engagement on something you created means the idea itself was worthless. It's a dangerous game. Okay, so that's the problem. But it absolutely does not have to be this way. There is a way out. Thanks to the work of people like Albert we actually have a tool we can use. It's called the Ludic De-Escalation Framework. It's a framework for freedom. And the LDF isn't just some abstract theory. No, it's a super practical guide. It's designed specifically to help us hit the reset button on our relationship with our activities and to break free from that dependency on the numbers. Now, at the heart of this framework is a process called the metric stripping protocol. This is the how-to, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. The actual steps you can take to put joy back in the driver's seat. And the protocol is pretty straightforward. It breaks down into 3 clear steps. It all starts with what's called the blackout phase. Then you move into intrinsic value rediscovery, and you finish up with something called qualitative journaling. So let's break down what each of those really means. All right, step 1, the blackout phase. This is simple, but I gotta say it can feel pretty radical at first. It just means you do your hobby with all the trackers turned off. No smartwatch, no app, no counter. You go for a run, just to run. You write, just to write. Zero feedback. So once you've cut out all that external noise, step 2 can begin. And this is all about rediscovering that intrinsic value. The focus shifts completely, away from the numbers and onto the actual feeling. You literally start to ask yourself a different set of questions. And this right here just nails it. The key question is no longer, what was your time or how many widgets did you make? The most important question becomes, how did it feel? This is how you retrain your brain to pay attention to your internal world again. And the final step is what really cements this new habit. So instead of logging your stats in some app or a spreadsheet, you switch over to qualitative journaling. You just write down a sentence or two describing the experience in your own words. And I mean, look at the difference here. It is night and day. On one side, you have the cold, hard data of a quantified log. But on the other, you have the qualitative journal. It captures the essence of the experience, right? The stuff the numbers could never, ever tell you. This feeling, that's what you're trying to reconnect with. So, at the end of the day, what's the whole point of this process? What's the ultimate goal? Well, it's about way more than just ditching your smartwatch. It's about finding that original feeling again. The end game, really, is to restore what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. That's the desire to do something just for the pure satisfaction and joy it brings you, completely separate from any score or reward or external validation. Ultimately, the goal is to just snap that link. It's about completely decoupling your self-esteem, your sense of accomplishment, and your joy from the numbers on all those algorithmic scoreboards. And that brings us to one final thought to leave you with. Just take a second and honestly ask yourself this question. What would you do if you knew for a fact that absolutely no one was counting?